Hi there, welcome to my video, where I'll be talking about my top 10 favorite movies of 2019. Now that the year's come to an end, I think that 2019 was a great year for movies. We saw big epic stories told over decades come to an end, like the Skywalker story in Star Wars or the Infinity Saga in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But we also saw a light shine on some smaller, more nuanced films that we'll be watching for years to come. So in this list, I compile my 10 favorite movies of 2019. Now before we get into the list, I've got a guest who's got some pretty important things to say about the video. So this list isn't gonna have any spoilers for the movies that I'm gonna be talking about, because the end goal is that people end up going out to watch the movies. And also I just want to remind you that this video is my own opinion, and your opinion might differ from that, and that's okay. If you do disagree and you want to talk to me about it, just let me know down in the comments. Let me know what you disagree with, what you agree with. I'd love to have a discussion. And now let's get on with the list. So starting off the list at number 10 is Rocket Man.
Touchdown brings me round again to find I'm not the man they think I am at home. Oh no, I'm a rocket man.
An incredible film about the rise of Elton John. It's not just for fans of Elton John's music, but it can also be enjoyed by people who like expressive filmmaking that breaks boundaries of realism to tell interesting stories about the psyche and mental states of its characters. An easy point of contrast for the film is the film about Queen that came out in 2018, Bohemian Rhapsody. Now the film about Queen seems more interested in being like a wiki page come to life for the band, while Rocket Man uses its formalistic elements like color, costumes, and even the way that it uses its music to tell the audience how characters like Elton are feeling. It's a film more preoccupied with relaying feelings than facts, and that's to its credit. Taron Egerton's performance as Elton alone is a reason to watch it, and who doesn't want to re-listen to some of Elton John's famous hits? At number 9, we have Apollo 11.
I'd like to know what you feel as far as the responsibilities of representing mankind on this trip.
That's relatively difficult to answer.
Apollo 11 is a documentary about, you guessed it, the Apollo 11 space mission. The difference about Apollo 11 to other documentaries that you may have seen is that this film is solely built on archival footage and recordings. There isn't any narrator or present-day interviews to help walk you through the story. This means that you stay in the moment of the mission. There's nothing to suck you out of 1969 because there's nothing from the present to do that. I think Apollo 11 is a great documentary for people who normally find docs boring or uninteresting. It retells the story of one of humanity's greatest triumphs and does it in one of the most realistic ways possible. And at number 8, we have The Lighthouse.
Keeping secrets, are you? No, sir. Why, just spill your beans.
This movie is weird. The best way I can describe it is a depressed person on LSD. It can be depressing and moody, but it's also trippy and wild. The film follows 2 lighthouse keepers as some crazy stuff happens on their small island. Everything about this movie, from the pacing to the performances, creates an uneasy feeling in the pit of your stomach, like you know something bad is gonna happen, but you don't know when. It's a lot like Stanley Kubrick's The Shining in that way. I feel like I could talk a lot about this movie, but to sum it all up, it's uncomfortable and uneasy, but you never want to look away. At number 7, we have The Irishman.
Frank Sheeran. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, you said it right.
Under the contract, management can only fire a driver on very specific charges. So, you ever show up late?
No.
Do you have any moving violations?
No.
Do you drink on the job?
No.
You ever hit anybody?
On a job?
Martin Scorsese strikes again with another gangster flick. Do I think The Irishman is as good as a movie like Goodfellas? No. But I think that by the end of his career, The Irishman will be recognized as one of Martin Scorsese's best films. The film uses the backdrop of the mob and the union to talk about something real, aging. By spanning over multiple periods in the main character's life, it talks about how different people at different ages deal with things like life and violence. And this can be applied to Scorsese himself. As he reaches the later stages of his career, he examines things like reputation, reconnecting, and remembering as you age. Martin Scorsese continues to push the boundaries of what digitalization means in cinema as he now uses de-aging technology when making the film. Although it's a really long movie, if you enjoy some of his other gangster films, The Irishman will not disappoint. At number 6, we have Jojo Rabbit. Taika Waititi remains high on my list of must-watch directors. He brings a signature flair to Jojo Rabbit as he tackles a new subject, Nazis. On the surface, the Nazi regime is used for comedy and satire. But underneath that, the setting fuels a story filled with heartbreaking moments. It's this combination of comedy and drama that makes Jojo Rabbit an interesting watch. You're never bored during the film, as it always has something to give. Jojo Rabbit is a story about hope and love in the darkest of times and uses comedy to hammer these themes home. And in typical Taika fashion, he steals every scene he's in, and this time as the main character's imaginary friend, Hitler. At number 5, we have Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
My hands are registered as lethal weapons.
Quentin Tarantino is back and continues to cement himself as one of cinema's greatest directors. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is centered around Rick Dalton, an actor who's starting to see his career dwindle, and his stuntman, Cliff Booth. Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt are perfect in these roles, as they play off each other wonderfully and their chemistry is infectious. As he normally does, Tarantino weaves multiple storylines together to create a layered experience that keeps you wanting more. The people, the music, the crazy storylines make you want to stay in the late 60s and breathe it all in. And although I have some personal qualms with some of the ways that Quentin Tarantino makes his films, I feel like it's hard to deny that the films that he's making aren't brilliant. At number 4, we have A Marriage Story.
Not easy for her to close a cabinet.
He's incredibly neat.
She's brave.
He's brilliant. He's very competitive.
A Marriage Story might be the realest depiction of love I've ever seen on screen. Unlike other films on the subject, A Marriage Story doesn't focus on the early stages of love. It focuses on the moments when love seems to be fading and disappearing. The film follows a married couple played by Scarlett Johansson and Adam Driver as they file for divorce and have to figure out what's best for their son. The film places you on the outside of the relationship and you watch as these two people drift apart. And it doesn't let you pick a side. There isn't a good guy and a bad guy, they're just people. Both performances by the two leads are defining for their respective careers. And along with getting bonus points for being the only film on the list that actually made me cry, this film is as real as it gets, and I feel like I'm only gonna appreciate it more as I get older. And with the bronze medal at number 3, we have 1917.
You have a brother in the 2nd Battalion.
Yes, sir. Is he alive?
And with your help, I'd like to keep it that way.
1917 has already become one of my favorite war movies. Following 2 British soldiers in the First World War, its story is uncompromising and it's beautifully made. Its standout feature is the fact that it's made to look like a single shot throughout. This provides fluidity as the story progresses, and also makes the film accessible to people who don't know much about World War I, because it's not jumping through space and time. 1917 is a wonderful film about hope and what it means to believe in humanity. And it does this all while being thrilling and being filled to the brim with action and tension. It's a fascinating look at one of the most important times in world history and should be a must-watch. At number 2, I have Parasite.
내 대신 얘 과외 선생님 좀 해줘라, 영어.
대학생인 척하라는 거야?
구라를 좀 치지 뭐.
넌 이 좋은 실력으로 왜 미대는 맨날 떨어지냐?
Parasite is a hard movie to talk about without spoiling, but I'm gonna do my best. This film is one of the most suspenseful I've ever seen. This South Korean film is filled with twists and turns placed just as you think you know where the story is gonna end up going. Its pacing and editing are major factors in this. These elements give you intimate moments to get to know the characters just as everything is then flipped on its head. There isn't a moment in the film that feels boring or slow. It's built like a fishing rod and you're the big fish. It's slowly reeling you in. Don't let the language barrier stop you from watching the movie because this is a story you don't want to miss out on. And my favorite movie of the year is Todd Phillips' Joker.
Is it just me? Or is it getting crazier out there?
Smile, though your heart is aching.
For me, Joker is the best movie of 2019. It's jam-packed with expertly developed symbolism and themes. Family ties, mental illness, and a corrupting society are all things touched on within the film. I love the way the film uses Gotham to touch on everything wrong with our own society. It does this without being too overt and shows how nuanced the film can be. Joker also provides us with a break from the monotonous, repetitive slog of comic book films that we've been fed for the past few years. It shows audiences that comic book films can be shown without being as simple as being bad guy versus good guy. And if all of this wasn't for you, you also have Joaquin Phoenix's performance as the titular character. I would say this feels like a cherry on top of a sundae, but it's so good it feels like a sundae on top of a sundae. It's a transformative piece of cinema, and I know that it's going to be talked about for years to come. So that's my list. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know down below if you agree with my list, disagree with my list. Let me know what your favorite movie of 2019 was. And before I go, I want to say thank you for watching the video. Let me know if you have any other ideas for videos you want to see. I hope to make other videos, maybe about reviews, just topics, maybe other lists. Let me know if there's anything that you want to see. And thanks.